Hey guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's review, we're going to be checking out Death Stranding. This is developed by Kojima Productions and published by Sony. So before we get into this, this is kind of sad that I have to mention this, but with all the drama going around with this game and the journalist, I am not a Kojima fanboy. I actually haven't played most of the Metal Gear Solids, and the ones I have played, stealth games aren't really my type of game. I also don't think that I'm actually going to be giving this game a score, because if I give it a good score, I'm clearly just going to be a Kojima fanboy, even though, like I just said, I haven't played any of the Metal Gear Solids. So this has actually probably been one of the hardest games to review, pretty much out of all the games that I've reviewed on this channel. Now, this game has got a really wide variety of mixed opinions, and this is why I took so long to upload this review. I wanted to make sure that I played as much as possible. So right now I've played over 100 hours. I've completed the story, and I've done quite a lot of the side quests and got multiple things to max level and whatnot. I just really wanted to make sure that I played this to have my full personal opinion. But anyway, Death Stranding takes place in the middle of an apocalypse. And I'm not going to go into the story, because we all know that Kojima's story, we're not going to explain it in like 2 seconds. I did actually upload a story explanation video, or at least what I thought of the story after completing the game. But yeah, basically you are going to connect America from east to west in the middle of this apocalypse. I do want to point out that the game has a very, very interesting story. If you do get to understand it, you definitely won't understand it until you complete the game. But I really do like how the story turns out, and it kind of all actually somehow makes sense to a certain degree. So the way the story chapters work in this game is that each chapter is kind of dedicated to one of the multiple people in the game. This is actually definitely one of my favorite parts of the story, at least until the end, where they kind of actually start to explain what the hell is going on. But some of the main characters have incredibly good stories, especially Hartman and Mama, and a few of the other ones I'm not going to spoil, but I really did like this aspect of the game. Just one chapter basically dedicated to discovering where those characters come from, what those characters are doing, and obviously a bit about what the hell is going on in the world as well. But yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite parts of the story. I also do think it's really cool to see this amount of actors in a game. It kind of is starting to get to that point where it's like, oh, who's in this game and who's in this film kind of thing. Oh, it's that actor that's in that game. And I've never really seen that before. I mean, sure, there has been a few actors in different games, but I just think it's really, really cool to have pretty much like 80% of the main characters in this game as like real actors with their voice, or at least most of them got their original voice. There are a few that have had voiceovers, but nonetheless, I think it's really cool. I'm like, obviously, it's not the best thing ever. I mean, there's some fictional characters that are amazing and I wouldn't be able to live without them. But I just think it's a really cool concept that hopefully sticks, at least in certain games, especially like story-heavy games like this one. But anyway, enough with that. Let's actually talk about the gameplay. This is where everybody is confused as how is this game good. Most of the people seen the hour gameplay that Kojima gave before the game was released, and everybody kind of just lost, a lot of people anyway, lost hype, because it looked like a walking simulator. And it is a walking simulator up to a certain point, but it is a good one. And this is like incredibly hard to explain. This is, for whatever reason, I think that this game is a game that you will find boring as hell if you just watch it, like you watch on YouTube or watch gameplay. But when you're actually playing it, I'm not really sure what it is. It may be just the burden of the story or what's going on. Maybe you're thinking about what's going on while you're walking or whatnot. But I did not get bored. I generally played all 100 hours, and I would continue playing it if I had time. I just did not get bored of walking around doing these deliveries. And I really generally do not know what it is, because we'll get to it in a minute, but the combat I didn't actually like. It was one of the negatives that I'm going to give this game. But there's something about walking around that was generally just cool. I think it was just how good the game looked. Like the environments in this game and the game in general, the faces. I've never seen anything like it. This game looks spectacular. And something else that really caught my eye was just how much care went into this game. Like, it's hard to actually look at other games after looking at. Obviously, this is like a very high budget game, and not all the games are going to look this good just simply because they can't. But the environment, everything just looks insane. And like in about 100 hours of gameplay, I did not find a single bug, except maybe when you're driving up a mountain with a bike. But we'll get to that in a minute. That's my other negative point. But yeah, me personally, I didn't get bored by walking around. I'm not sure what it was. And like, don't get me wrong, not everybody's going to love this game. But you should at least try it. Like, this is what I'm trying to say. You should at least try it, because I was kind of in the same boat as a lot of the haters. Like, it just looked boring. And to be honest, I do watch live streams, even though I've completed the game. And like, I'm watching, I was like, wow, this game actually does look boring when you're watching it. But yeah, when I played it, I absolutely loved every single second of it. So before this game came out, Kojima was saying how he has created a new genre. Now, what he meant, and I don't think he has gone as far as making a new genre, at least not completely. I'm sure people will be inspired by what he's done, and other games will probably include some of the mechanics, but I'm not sure if to call it a new genre. So what this new genre he was talking about is implementing online kind of asymmetrical online mechanics. So this is kind of, if you play Dark Souls, you'll know what I'm talking about, but it's kind of like a massive blown up version of what Dark Souls Online is. Like in Dark Souls, you can leave little messages, and even though you can't see the player in real time, you can see their messages. Well, this takes it to another level. In this game, you can see structures built by other players. Obviously, you can see signs, you can see vehicles that other players have left, and all these structures and vehicles and whatnot is a symbol that we should all come together in this kind of deserted world, because these things that other characters create will hopefully help us out. Like, somebody may place a ladder to get across a massive river or something. Later on in the game, you get a ton of different things that I'm not really going to go into just because of spoilers, but like, you get a ton of vehicles. You're not going to end up walking everywhere. You obviously have to walk a lot, but you're not necessarily going to have to walk everywhere. And you unlock some really, really cool things like shelters, because later on the game will actually show you timefall in real time. You can actually kind of plan ahead and see where the timefall is going to be. Timefall is like this rain that will age everything, and in timefall areas, you do have a chance to encounter BTs, which are the undead. So you can kind of like make a shelter, then you can add music to that shelter and stuff and just chill under that shelter. You can see where people rest, and if you rest where people rest, you'll get more stamina. It's just a really cool feature that I thought I wasn't going to like. I thought it was just going to go kind of meh. But the whole asymmetrical online feature in this game, I really enjoyed. It kind of gave you this like feeling that like you're in your own world, but there's always somebody kind of there to like help out, you know? And I thought it was really cool. Like I said, I didn't think I was going to like this. This is not something I normally like, but I found it incredibly amusing, to say the least. There is one thing missing from the online feature that I really wish they would have put in the game, and maybe they will. Hopefully, please put it in the future. Is that I really wish that you could like somehow always be in like the same server as your friends, or like see your friend list structures in a different color or something, because obviously you're not seeing everybody in the world. You're put in the same server as like maybe 20-30 people, but I really wish they would always put you in the server of at least people you choose to be in the server off your friend list. I think that would have made it a bit more amusing, especially if people do kind of have friends that play the game as well. I thought that would have been really cool, and hopefully maybe they'll one day add that. So as much as I like this game, there are a few things that I don't like, two to be specific. So the combat in this game isn't really that great in my opinion. There's actually kind of three different types of combat. The first one is against mules, which are these kind of human guys that just kind of want to steal the cargo. Most of the time you're just going to be punching them and stealth killing them. There's not much stealth in this game. Like I said at the start, I don't really like Metal Gear Solid just because it's a stealth game. I'm not into that. And you can't actually, like, you can get non-lethal weapons a bit later on in the game, but like you can't actually kill them. Part of the story is that if there's a body that goes necro, there'll actually be like a nuclear explosion that will leave a massive like crater in the ground. And this actually goes gameplay wise. If you kill somebody, like mortally kill somebody with a real gun, which you do get like very later on in the game, you actually have to incinerate that body. Like you have to take that body to the other end of the map to incinerate it. So you have to knock them out. Like killing is not an option, at least in this aspect of the game. I didn't really like it, and plus it was quite easy to a certain point. You literally, like, at least near the start of the game, you could literally just run in there and punch everybody to death. Not to death, like we just said, but you could punch them and knock them out for the most part. The second part of combat is basically, or the second scene of combat is against the BTs. Like we said, if you go into a area where it's timefall, you have the chance to encounter BTs. Now, if they grab you, you can escape by spamming the button until you run out of stamina. If you do run out of stamina and they take you under the tar, you'll have to fight a mini boss. Now, this looks incredibly spectacular. Like, pretty much every time it happens, like, wow, look how good that looks. That is scary as hell. And there are some intense moments while trying to sneak past these BT. These BTs are invisible, but you have the help of BB, and this sensor thing that shows them what direction you're in, or what direction they're in, sorry. If you get too close, you're going to have to hold your breath and act like you're dead so they don't detect you. And there is, like, especially at the start, the first few times, it is very, very intense. But in the end, they kind of just get annoying, and the mini bosses that come out in general are quite easy to kill. You just, here you can use lethal weapons, but more of like, you have to use these blood bullets and blood grenades. They look really good, but they kind of get repetitive and a bit annoying in the end. And like I said, they're not actually that hard to kill. Plus, you can just run away from them if you want. Even if you do encounter the mini boss, you can just run away out of the circle area, and timefall will stop. Like, you don't even have to like worry about them for a while anyway in that area. And the third scene of combat is actually the one I like the most. It's actually really like the simplest one, but there are a few times in the game, I'm not going to show it because it's spoilery, but you'll go to a place where you can use lethal weapons against kind of humans, and you know, it just feels like a shooter. And I know that sounds really bland, but I kind of just liked it. I mean, compared to the rest of the combat in this game, that was what I liked, to be honest. And it was fine. Like, that was the only part of combat that I thought was okay. But in general, the combat was not my favorite part. The other thing that I didn't really like in this game is the controls to the driving. Now, the driving was actually quite fun. Like, you know, getting a bike and just, like, later on in the game, you'll see roads and you can help build roads, and it will basically go around the whole map. And if you've got a bike or a truck and you can use these roads, it's actually quite quick. And some of the bikes are basically like horses from Skyrim. Sometimes this is what I didn't really like. The controls when you kind of go off-road can be very, very random. Sometimes it just acts like you can't turn. Sometimes it'll get stuck in an invisible wall. This is probably mostly my fault for trying to take a bike up a massive snowy mountain. But I don't know, it should have just been a yes or a no, not like you can kind of struggle through these rocks or whatever. It kind of just got really clunky as soon as you try to go a bit off-road, and the controls weren't that great in the first place. But they're the only two things that I really didn't like about this game. And yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say about my time in Death Stranding. I absolutely loved every minute of it. And to be honest, if only half the games that came out had the amount of care and dedication that went into the development of this game, the gaming industry would be so much better. And like I said, I'm not going to be giving it a score for reasons, aka the internet. But yeah, this is definitely a game I had a lot of, I wouldn't say fun, I would actually say a lot of entertainment out of this game, because the word fun isn't the right word for this game. But yeah, definitely worth picking up just because of how unique it is. I guarantee that you have not played anything similar. I can understand like why people wouldn't like it, and I'm not talking about these people that just headbutt the keyboard and say, oh, it's a walking simulator, or there's no gameplay. Those people don't count. I can understand people that play it 20 hours or so and still don't like it. I can understand it. It's a weird type of game. It's a unique type of game, and like I said, without counting those people that haven't played it, which are sadly most of them, it is a game that you may not like, but I would definitely recommend at least putting at least 10 hours into it, because it does start off a bit slow. I also have always been somebody that strongly is against people having opinions on games that have not played the games. Up to a certain point, obviously some games you can watch on YouTube and have quite a decent opinion. But this is definitely not the case. I really don't think people that have not played this game's opinions should count, as rough as that sounds, but I just believe that's the correct way to look at this game. But yeah, even if I wasn't a Kojima fanboy before, I probably am now, thanks to this game. And yeah, that's really all I've got to say. Thanks for watching, guys. If this was helpful, please go like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.